America's Got Talent is a big talent show on TV, and all sorts of performers try out for possible fame and fortune. Earlier this year, a young woman appeared on the stage at the auditions, and she goes by the name of Nightbird. And Nightbird chats with the judges before singing an original song called It's Okay. And during that chat, Nightbird reveals that she's been living with cancer the past few years and that she's in fact still has cancer in her system. She is not in fact okay. She sings her song telling us that it's okay. We're all a little lost sometimes. And one of the judges after the performance tells her how impressive she is. It's been a beautiful song. There's been a standing ovation. And Nightbird says, "You can't wait until life isn't hard anymore before you decide to be happy. You can't wait until life isn't hard anymore before you decide to be happy." So if this young woman who's facing a terminal cancer diagnosis, whose dream to be a singer is being blocked by her illness, can choose happiness, surely the rest of us can too. And is that possible? Can we decide to be happy? Is it that simple? My first reaction is a big fat no. You can't decide to be happy. Happy is a feeling, it's a sensation. And just like you don't decide to feel angry or sad, you can't choose happiness. You don't choose your emotions. And in fact, being told to decide to be happy makes me very grumpy and inclined to hold on to my bad moods. Because emotions are guides to the state of our being. They just are. And it's good to feel a range of emotions from anger and fear to joy and delight. And when we feel anger or fearful or sad, those feelings are marking our experiences and shouldn't be invalidated, but acknowledged and accepted. Anyone in a time of crisis who's been told to look on the bright side knows how unhelpful that is. What we need is empathy for our struggles. It's okay to have rough times, to despair. As the Buddha said, life is suffering. And yet I know that Nightbird is also correct. You can't wait until the good times to be happy. Sometimes you need to seek it out, no matter how terrible things are. You can turn towards the good, open your heart, even in the hard times. And I think it's that opening of the heart, the choice to live with an open heart and mind and spirit, which can lead to, if not happiness, kindness or joy or delight or awe or gratitude, those feelings that ground us in the good and leave you feeling right in yourself. And of course, it's that opening of the self that's difficult. Many people are raised to be stoic, to endure, to not complain. We've been taught the best way to deal with struggle is to put our heads down and bull our way through, only coming up and opening up when the hard times are gone. It's a way to protect ourselves. It's how we move through society. And it's not terrible to live this way, but closing off those painful feelings can sometimes mean we do also shut out our capacity for happiness. I know when I look back over this past pandemic time, there's been some shutting down of the heart for me. The fear of catching COVID, the worry about health systems crumbling under the strain, the uncertainty of reopening, numbers spiking, it's also emotionally draining. And I think others feel like that too. That sense that your capacity is at an all-time low, finding that everyday tasks take twice as long. It's emotional exhaustion. And I think we've all been waiting for the reboot, when the pandemic finally switches off and life turns back on, restored to normal in all its full normalness. No mask, no distancing, no worries. You can breathe a sigh of relief and just get on with things. But life is not a laptop. It's not going to reboot back to normal. Normal is what's happening right now. This slow back and forth, this tentative process of shading back into things the way they were. And it is getting better. We can be together and know that it's reasonably safe. We know that masks and physical distancing makes a difference. We know the vaccines are amazingly effective. We know that surfaces aren't the issue. And we know that if the vaccinated get COVID, it is far, far more likely to be mild. And yet in my heart, all of this is hard to trust. It's hard to believe the risks are now low and more manageable. I've gotten used to being alone, and I have this sense that crowds are dangerous. And of course, for the medically vulnerable, even low risk is still a risk. So stress and exhaustion and worry are still part of living. But we can't wait for the hard times to be over before we seek happiness. And I remind myself that this is a both and situation, that we can be both hurting and happy. After all, as Unitarian Universalists, we live in that both and space. We know that life is full of nuance and complexity and contradiction. I used to think it was great to disregard happiness, to press on to a high goal, careless, disdainful of it, said Anne Gilchrist, an English writer from the mid-1800s. And she continues, but now I see that there is nothing so great as to be capable of happiness, to pluck it out of each moment and whatever happens, to find that one can ride as gay and buoyant on the angry, menacing, tumultuous waves of life as on those that glitter and glide under a clear sky. I do not think we can always live happy. In fact, I'm sure it is necessary to make room for sorrow and anger and fear as well. But it is also vital for the well-being of our spirits to remember that we can pluck out some happiness even as we ride those tumultuous waves of life. Contemporary English writer Josie George is a disabled woman living on social assistance, and she has to use a mobility stroller, and she has to spend much of her time resting, because even putting the kettle on for tea can take all of her strength and bring pain. So her world consists of a few people and a few square blocks around her home. Josie says, my gaze has intensified as my body has slowed. Now I notice everything, and I am hungry for everything, hungry to experience every detail I can. I study my surroundings as if they were an encyclopedia. Josie spends her days noticing and delighting in the world as it is. She sits there and just strokes the black fur of her cat, and there again, something in me soars. I think Josie has learned to be in touch with our first source, direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. As wordy as that source is, it is my favorite. It reminds me that direct experience, paying attention to right here, right now, can renew my spirit. That it is an openness to the forces that create and uphold life. And that, of course, is the tricky bit, being open to that life force, open to feeling all of the feelings, the joyful and the painful, open to all of the wonders surrounding us. It doesn't mean ignoring or denying our struggles, but making ourselves a little bit bigger than them, making some space for that good in the world to enter. So we can find happiness in the small, amazing details that are right around us, like the beauty of the leaves of the birch tree above us. We can go small or we can go big. The English writer Anne Gilchrist also noted, One of the hardest things to make a child understand is that down underneath your feet, if you go far enough, you come to blue sky and stars again. That there really is no down for the world, but only in every direction and up. And that this is an all-embracing truth, including within its scope every created thing, and with deepest significance, every part, faculty, attribute, healthful impulse, mind and body of a person, each and all facing towards and related to the infinite on every side. And this is what we grown children find hardest to realize too. I like those writers from the 1800s. They're so flourishing with their words. And I honestly have never really thought about that, despite knowing we live on a round planet, that if you go far enough down below me, there is blue sky and stars underneath my feet. It's astonishing and accurate. It's an all-embracing truth that we are related to the infinite on every side as we live on this big blue marble floating in infinite space. This is our first source, experiencing mystery and wonder of what life is. We live on this astonishing world full of small joys and great amazing truths. We live in the midst of glory. If we only have eyes to see, if we're able to be a little bit bigger than our suffering, we can open our hearts to those wonders of life. We can live in the both and. We are struggling and life is still good. We can hurt and still feel happiness. I still don't think we can just decide to be happy, but we can choose to look for those small details and all embracing truths to see the beauty and glory of life. Life is glorious. And that's a word we people of the chalice don't use all that often, but it's a good word meaning beauty and splendor. When I see trees in autumn, all green and gold and orange and red, the words glory, glory do arise in my mind. Life is glorious. There's a reason Christians use that word. Some of you may know Macklemore, who is an American rapper, and he wrote a song for his grandmother Helen's 100th birthday. And then he made a video with her. And it's this delightful video where he takes her out to do all sorts of fun things for the day, and they cruise around in a Cadillac convertible. And he sings, I feel glorious, glorious. Got a chance to start again. I was born for this, born for this. It's who I am. How could I forget? I made it through the darkest part of the night, and now I see the sunrise. Now I feel glorious, glorious. I feel glorious, glorious. The pandemic continues, but the horizon is brightening. And my wish for all of us in the days and weeks to come, that despite our suffering, despite our worries and fears and struggles, despite it all, we seek the good. May we have experiences of wonder, small and large, so that all of us may have those moments where we feel glorious, glorious. So say we all.